case because the state's key witnesses in this case that they're going to call to testify, that I anticipate that they will call to testify against my client Shannon Stillwell, when they became involved in this case, they were all wearing the Fulton County blue. When Darius Zachary, Kenneth Copeland, Sammy Davis, Jerron Stillwell, Spencer Wright, you'll hear them testify if they're called. You'll hear what they've said previously, perhaps. But what you should keep in mind is, when did these men say what they have to say? Did they say it when they first got the information to share? Or when they claimed they first got the information to share? Or did they share it when they found themselves wearing the Fulton County blue? When they no longer had control of their destinies and they needed a favor? And they decided to insert themselves into a high-profile case that could solve all their problems. Let's talk about January 10, 2015. That's the case involving Mr. Thomas. And the evidence will show that this was a high-profile case. And the reason, this is not me talking. I anticipate the evidence will show. I anticipate the state's own witnesses, the state's own gang investigators will tell you, not me talking. I anticipate they will tell you that Donovan Thomas was a big deal, that he was a gang leader, that he was a leader of the Inglewood family Bloods in Atlanta, that he was high-ranking. And that's what made this case a big deal on the streets. You'll also hear that this case, this shooting of Donovan Thomas, was caught on surveillance video. Now, I'm not going to suggest that it's the highest quality surveillance video, but it was caught on surveillance video. And you'll be able to watch the surveillance video. And you'll see McDaniel Street in downtown Atlanta at about 7:20 p.m. on January 10, 2015. Remember, winter, it's cold, dark. And you'll see a car zoom down McDaniel Street towards Northside Drive, headed northwest, I believe. And you'll see and you will hear testimony that Mr. Thomas was with other individuals. What they were doing, I don't know. But he was with other individuals in a parking lot in between two barbershops. One being Mr. George's barbershop and one being Mr. Bernard's barbershop. And you will hear that this car zoomed down this dark street on that January 9th, and it appears from the video that you will see that an individual starts shooting out of the sunroof in the direction of Donovan Thomas and others. And you'll see that surveillance video for what it is and what it isn't. And you will also see how quickly everything occurred that night. A matter of seconds. Detective Thorpe is the Atlanta Police Department detective that was assigned this case in January 2015. And you'll hear that he gathered the evidence from the crime scene. There was no DNA. There was no fingerprints of value. You'll hear that there were shell casings all along the street, but you won't ever hear that these shell casings were linked to any particular gun or Shannon Stillwell or anything else. And there were no eyewitnesses on January 10, 2015 coming forward saying, yes, I was here and this is what I saw. And I saw this person do this. There was none of that. And you'll hear that this case remained unsolved. No one had been charged for 9 months and 9 days. On October 19, 2015, 9 months and 9 days after the Donovan Thomas shooting, a man named Nicholas Robinson was arrested on the streets of Atlanta and brought to Fulton County Jail for various pending charges. And you will hear evidence that Mr. Robinson decided he needed help. He didn't want to wear the Fulton County blue. You will hear that he contacted Atlanta Police Department and got in touch with Detective Thorpe. And Detective Thorpe came out and interviewed this Nicholas Robinson. You'll hear what Nicholas Robinson said in this interview, how he gave his vantage point to Detective Thorpe, how Nicholas Robinson said that he was seated at the MARTA bus bench right across McDaniel Street from the barbershops. And you'll hear that Nicholas Robinson told Detective Thorpe that he saw it all. And he saw the people that were inside the car. And he gave names. Nicholas Robinson said, I saw Antonio Sledge. He came out of the sunroof, shooting. I saw Kenneth Copeland. He was in the front passenger seat. I saw Demetrion Garlington. He was the driver of this car. Cornelius Zachary, he wasn't there, but he supplied the gun to Antonio Sledge. And yes, I saw Shannon Stillwell, my client, in the back, passenger side, shooting at Hannah. So Detective Thorpe, after taking this information from Nicholas Robinson, who just broke the case, created photo lineups. And you'll learn what a photo lineup is. It's essentially 6 photos that contain a picture of a suspect, and then 5 what we call fillers. And you'll learn about that. And Detective Thorpe showed these photo lineups. A photo lineup with Antonio Sledge, and then a photo lineup with Kenneth Copeland. Each person had their own photo lineup, just to ensure that Nicholas Robinson could pick these people out of a photo lineup. And Nicholas Robinson did. And he signed his name, Nicholas Robinson, next to the picture of Antonio Sledge, and next to the picture of Kenneth Copeland, and next to the picture of Demetrion Garlington, and next to the picture of my client, Shannon Stillwell. Nicholas Robinson signed his name and said, these were the people in the car. Ladies and gentlemen, why am I telling you this? Well, Detective Thorpe had 2 small problems. First, you will see the surveillance video. You will be able to watch the surveillance video and the lighting conditions out there and the fact that there's gunfire going every which way and how fast the car is moving, and you will be able to judge, was it ever even believable that someone could see 4 people inside a car under those conditions? But there was a bigger problem that Detective Thorpe had. You see, you'll learn that during this interview with Nicholas Robinson, it wasn't only Detective Thorpe, there was another investigator there, an investigator Gaither. And while Detective Thorpe was talking to Nicholas Robinson, Detective Gaither was doing some investigation of her own and looking into Nicholas Robinson and who this guy was who had just been arrested. And after Nicholas Robinson picked out all these people, including my client, Detective Gaither had to tell Detective Thorpe a little secret. Detective Gaither had to tell Detective Thorpe, that guy in there just signed those photo lineups that just signed their case, his name isn't really Nicholas Robinson. He lied to us about his name. His name is actually Spencer Wright. So, the case was solved by someone who lied about their name. So, what was Detective Thorpe's solution? Well, this is what the evidence would show. Detective Thorpe completely overlooked the lie about him. The improbability of a man spotting 4 different individuals in the car moving at a high rate of speed in the middle of the night. He overlooked those things. And he said to Nicholas Robinson, or said to Spencer Wright, I've come to learn that your name is not actually Nicholas Robinson, it's Spencer Wright. Could you look at these photo lineups again, and instead of writing a fake name, Nicholas Robinson, could you actually sign your real name, Spencer Wright? And Spencer Wright did. So what happened? Detective Thorpe, on October 19th, 2015, based on the word of Spencer Wright, the man who had just claimed to be Nicholas Robinson, Detective Thorpe took out warrants for Antonio Sledge, Demetrion Garlington, Kenneth Copeland, and my client, Shannon Stillwell, based on what Spencer Wright said. Okay. Since October 19th of 2015, people have had an opportunity to review some things on this case. The surveillance video that you will see, it's interesting because not only does it show McDaniel Street, catch the incident, but it also shows the Marta park bench right across from the barber shops on McDaniel Street. And know who's in the barber shop? Know who's in the park bench? The bus Marta bench across from the barber shop? No one. It was all fabricated. It was all made up. It was all a lie. We've been able to review Spencer Wright's jail phone calls to associates made around that time. All but admitting, I'm lying. I need to get out of here. I'm inserting myself into a case so I can get favorable treatment, so that others get arrested. The state has since dismissed the charges against Antonio Sledge, Kenneth Copeland, and Demekion Garlington. They continue to push forward against Shannon Stillwell. Why is Spencer Wright so important? Why have I spent so much time talking about someone who clearly lied, who clearly wasn't there, who clearly made things up? Well, Spencer Wright gives us the blueprint. He tells us what to look out for. What was Spencer Wright wearing when he fabricated his story? Fulton County Blue. What did he want? What was he in search of when he fabricated his story? Control of his destiny. He didn't want it to be left in the judicial system. He wanted to use something to get a deal. He wanted to take back control. That's what Men in Blue do. Okay. In this case, I anticipate the state will bring 4 witnesses forward. All 4 have certain things in common, as I stated. When they supposedly came upon information that was relevant, never shared it with law enforcement. But once they were wearing blue and they needed something, that's when they came up with their stories. I anticipate the state will call Quindarius Zachary, ironically, one of the people accused by Spencer Wright. You'll learn that he claims he knew information from January 10, 2015. January, February, March, April, May, never shared this information with anyone. But lo and behold, you'll hear he found himself in custody for serious charges on August 5th of 2015. Then all of a sudden he had a story to tell. You'll hear he gave a second statement to law enforcement approximately a year later, where he was in a room with the gang investigators, with prosecutors, including the prosecutors that were handling his case and had control over his destiny and his future, and his attorney. And you'll hear that he gave a second statement and was looking for a deal. Quindarius Zachary is no longer wearing blue. Quindarius Zachary is not charged in this case. He got his deal. You'll hear about Kenneth Copeland. Again, someone ironically accused by Spencer Wright. You'll hear that Kenneth Copeland hates jail more than anything. The problem is, for someone that hates jail...
Oh, I'm buffering. Not during Shart's opening.
More than anything, he does a horrible job of avoiding it. And you'll hear that throughout this investigation, he's repeatedly arrested by the Atlanta Police Department and other jurisdictions. And you'll hear 2 of those arrests were on June 10th of 2015 for guns, found in possession of guns. October 28, 2021, guns, found in possession of guns. And he makes it very clear about what he thinks about wearing the blue. But the interesting thing about him is, as you will hear, is every time he's arrested, law enforcement runs out to talk to him. And he goes through the same song and dance about how he'll do anything. Just don't, please don't make me wear that blue. Kenneth Copeland is no longer wearing blue. And he's not charged in this case. I anticipate you may hear from a man named Sammy Davis, who claims he was at the scene on January 10, 2015. January through December of 2015, never once went to law enforcement. 2016, never once went to law enforcement. But then in March 17, 2017, when he's in jail, wearing blue, law enforcement comes out and talks to him. You'll hear his story. His story about how 2 cars were driving down McDaniel Street, and the first car sent a signal to the second car saying Donovan Thomas is just leaving the barber shop as a signal like it's time to shoot. And how the second car pulled up in front of the barber shop and stopped in the middle of the street. Just stopped. And then people started shooting at Donovan Thomas. You'll hear Sammy Davis' story. You'll also see the video. You'll see that there's no first car, second car. You'll see that there's no signal. You'll see that Donovan Thomas wasn't just leaving the barbershop, that he had, in fact, like the state had already stated, been hanging out with friends in that parking lot for quite some time prior to the shooting. And most importantly, you'll hear, or you'll see on the video, that Sammy Davis's claims that his car stopped are 100% wrong. The car never stops. The car drives on by. Bullets flying everywhere. You'll be able to listen to Sammy Davis's story and compare it to the surveillance video to figure out how much value you should give his story. And finally, I anticipate you may hear from a man named Tremont Stillwell. A man who curiously claims he's my client's uncle. Not sure what that's about. You'll hear that he claimed to come across important information in January of 2015. And he claimed he came across this important information while talking to someone with his wife, Vanetta Guffey, right there. You'll hear throughout all of 2015, never said a word to law enforcement. It wasn't until March 22nd, 2016. Guess what color Tremont Stillwell was wearing at that time? You got it. He was in jail for serious charges, and he needed help. He needed help from law enforcement to start to reclaim his destiny, control over his life, to escape the monotony and the filth of the Fulton County Jail. And you'll hear that he claimed to have information. You'll hear that the state, to their credit, went to try to corroborate whatever Tremont Stillwell was talking about and talked to his wife, who is now deceased. Her name is Vanetta Guffey. She's now deceased. But you'll hear that she was interviewed on May 11th of 2016 when she was still alive. And you'll hear what she had to say about Tremont Stillwell's claims. That what he's saying happened, never happened, A, and that Tremont Stillwell is a effing liar. Those are the state's witnesses in this case. Those are the men in blue. Count 2 of this indictment is the count that charges my client, Shannon Stillwell, along with a whole new group of individuals with the murder of Donovan Thomas. There'll be no forensic evidence, there'll be no ballistic evidence. There'll be no eyewitnesses that presented themselves at the scene to say, I saw this occur. The surveillance video will not give insight as to whether Shannon Stillwell was there or not. The state's case will rest entirely on the word of men in blue. When the evidence is done, is done and trial is done in this case, I'm going to ask that you return a verdict of not guilty to count 2, murder. Okay. Now, I would like to preview a little bit about my client's life after the Donovan Thomas murder. Remember, on October 19th, 2015, the Atlanta Police Department, Detective Thornton, and the news broadcast to the world, and more specifically to the streets, and more specifically to the Inglewood family blood gang that Donovan Thomas was the head of, that my client was responsible. Based on the word of Spencer Wright, based on the word of someone that even the state is saying lied. First they said it wasn't completely accurate, now it was a lie. Based on that, they broadcast to everyone that my client was responsible. And there has been repercussions. You'll hear in 2015, people pulled up to my client as he stood outside a store, shot a gun at his head, and grazed his forehead. Thankfully, he's still with us. You'll hear that later in 2015, my client went to go get a fish dinner with the mother of his child and another young lady named Tiara Jones at JJ's Fish at the corner of University and Pryor. And members of the gang spotted them there, stalked that car, drove behind the car, and unleashed bullets upon that car, hitting that poor lady, the driver, Tiara Jones, in the face, killing her, causing the car to crash and spin, breaking bones in my client's body, collapsing his lungs. The streets have not cared that Spencer Wright is a liar. Since that time, my client's life has changed in some small ways and some big ways that I think make sense. Shannon Stillwell, since that time, has been careful about his surroundings. He tends to back into parking spots. He tends to run red lights at intersections, not to be a sitting duck for IFA members or anyone else. He habitually changes residences. And yes, he does habitually rent cars, including a white Audi. He does this, the evidence will show, so no one can associate him with any particular car. None of the IFA members can know where he is. And yes, when he rents cars, he does tint their windows, so no one can see in. That's the life he leads since 2015. And yes, when he leaves the house late at night, he does conceal his identity. It was during COVID, but he does wear a mask. That's been Shannon Stillwell's life since 2015. And I'm going to ask that you keep that into account as you consider the evidence as it's presented. Now, 7 years later, March 14, 2022, remember, Shannon has been publicly accused, but no one has ever taken that case to court. No one has ever even tried to actually prove the case. They just accused the case. And Shannon has remained a wanted man. Not by the police, but by someone scarier. On March 14, 2022, the evidence will show that Shannon, Marvius Nichols, Leakion Garlington, and Miles Farley were planning on going to the music studio to work on music. Still chasing after. The evidence will show that Mr. Garlington was a passenger in Mr. Stillwell's and Shannon's rented white Audi with tinted windows, and Mr. Nichols was with Mr. Farley in Mr. Nichols' white Ford Fusion. The evidence, and you'll see, in this case, you'll see there's several different surveillance videos that you'll see in this case. The first being the BP footage. That's from the BP at the corner of Fulton Street and Windsor Street in Atlanta. And you'll see the video. And you'll see Mr. Stillwell. No, we will never deny that he was at the BP. We will never deny that. We'll never deny that he was in a rented white Audi. And you'll see Mr. Stillwell pull up on that camera and back into a parking spot right in front of the DP. And you will see Mr. Nichols shortly thereafter in his white Ford Fusion pull up at the gas tank so he can purchase gas to get to the studio. You'll see footage from inside of the store. That's Mr. Nichols. You'll find out that that's Mr. Nichols purchasing an item, and that's Mr. Stillwell, my client, wearing a Pink Floyd hoodie with a pink wool cap on. And you'll be able to observe them on video, and you'll see Miles Farley, a third person in their group, a shorter individual, come in, and you'll see them playing around and pushing each other in a playful manner as friends do. I'm going to ask you to observe them on a video, then ask yourself, does that appear to be men on a mission? Or just appear to be friends, planning on going to the studio? The video will reveal that at some point, a gentleman by the name of Shamal Drinks pulls up in a red car at another, and in fact, I believe that's a picture of it right there at that gas pump, and he enters the store. You'll be able to see the video of him entering the store from the parking lot, and you'll be able to see him inside the store. You'll see that he gets into some sort of argument or altercation, not an altercation, an argument. It appears with the clerk, and he leaves the store, and he gets in his car. There will be no interaction whatsoever between Mr. Drinks and my client, Mr. Drinks and Mr. Farley, Mr. Drinks and Mr. Nichols, Mr. Drinks and Mr. Garlington. There'll be no interaction at all. And you will see Mr. Drinks exit that parking lot and take a right onto Windsor Street. And then you will see Mr. Stillwell exit that parking lot and take a right onto Windsor Street. And then you'll see Mr. Nichols exit the parking lot and take a right onto Windsor Street. And that's where the FedEx surveillance footage will take over. And you'll be able to watch the FedEx footage on Windsor Street, which will show these cars drive up and end up at a red light. will see my client's car, white Audi, run a red light. You will see Mr. Nichols follow my client's car and run a red light. Eventually, cars come in to replace him, and traffic flow continues and continues for several minutes. And eventually, a man who's just happened to be going the other way looks into Mr. Drinks' car, which is still sitting there, and notices that Mr. Drinks has been shot. What you will not see on this video is any indication at all that this shooting occurred while my client's car was beside Mr. Drinks. You will not see any muzzle flash, you will not see any commotion, you will not see any fight, you will not see anything at all that suggests that that's when the shooting occurred. So, this March 14, 2022 case, what I anticipate is you will not hear any eyewitnesses say that Shannon Stillwell, and let's be clear, the state is accusing Shannon Stillwell. I mentioned that there's 4 people in this party. They are accusing Shannon Stillwell of shooting Mr. Drinks out of that white Audi. The state will not present to you any witnesses that saw this occur. The state will not present to you any forensic evidence that proves that this occurred. The surveillance I submit to you, and you'll be able to see it and judge for yourself, points to the exact opposite, that the shots did not come from Mr. Stillwell's car, nor did, and I'm not suggesting they came from Mr. Nichols either. They came from neither car. So why was Shannon Stillwell arrested? Well, they had video of Shannon at the BP. Okay, that's fine, we don't deny that, never will. They made certain assumptions about what would be on that FedEx video that you will be able to look at and determine what it shows and what it doesn't show. And I'm sure they assumed that it would show some shooting, but it doesn't. And finally, they made assumptions about Shannon Stillwell. Remember what the state said in opening about how Detective Hogan had his case. He had people on a video at the BP, which is near where the shooting occurred, but not where the shooting occurred. He had people on his video, and then he talked to another detective, Viverito, and Viverito said, "Oh, that's Shannon Stillwell. That's Shannon Stillwell. Oh, that's Marcus Nichols." And they just ran with it. Yeah. Shannon Stillwell was at the BP that night. He didn't shoot Jamal Drinks. None of his friends shot Jamal Drinks. They went to the studio. Since these warrants were taken out for Shannon Stillwell, and I'll tell you the warrants were taken out and Shannon Stillwell was arrested in that same white Audi on March 17, 2022, 3 days later. Since those warrants have been taken out, some other information has come forward. First, I'm going to ask you, and this will be entered in evidence, I'm going to ask that you consider the rental agreement for the white Audi. You will learn that on March 16, 2 days after this alleged shooting, when every other person who has a guilty conscience, anyone who has a guilty conscience is trying to get out of the rental car, Shannon extended his lease. I'm going to ask you to consider and really think about that. Extending a lease of a car that you supposedly just killed someone. Are those the actions of someone who's guilty of that crime? You're going to hear about the wiretap on Demekion Garlington's phone. Remember, Demekion Garlington was in Mr. Stillwell's car. And the state hinted at it a little bit. They were talking about Jane Myrick and people wanting to attack a man named Lucci. And based on these concerns in the jail...
The live stream is still... They're still scheduling it for noon, you guys, for actual, live court today.
The state applied for it, and you'll learn what a wiretap is. They applied for a wiretap and received a wiretap for Demekion Garlington's phone. The phone of the person who was with Shannon Stillwell on March 14, 2022. And you'll learn what a wiretap is, and how a wiretap really consists of law enforcement sitting and listening in on all your phone calls, incoming and outgoing, and recording all the relevant and pertinent phone calls and conversations that occur. You'll learn that this wiretap on Demekion Garlington's phone began on March 10th, but certainly well before March 14th, the date of the Jamal Drinks shooting. So it was in place that night. Who knows about the wiretap? You'll learn that too. Do you think the government tells you that your phone is being wiretapped? Of course they don't. It's secret. No one knows. That's the point. Then you'll learn about who Demetrius Garlington is and what type of guy he is. I would submit, if you have a secret, you wouldn't want to tell Demetrius Garlington. You'll hear him on the wiretap, drunk, high, talking about everything under the sun. Pills, weed, guns, girls, robberies, all stuff that he's involved in, completely against his interests to discuss, but he doesn't know he's being listened to now. But one thing that's interesting, of all the things that his loudmouth talks about, all the crimes, and they said they brag about this stuff. They said Demetrius Garlington was bragging about this stuff. All the things they brag about, no, it never comes up. Shooting anyone on March 14, 2022. All the crimes he discusses, that never comes up. Finally, and most importantly, the science about this March 14, 2022 case. We're going to learn about gunshot residue. Gunshot residue testing. Testing that tests for microscopic particles that contain a combination of lead, barium.
They let you in, Kayla? You look like you're on the court Wi-Fi.
And antimony. Particles that come from the explosion of a gun in the gunshot primer that causes it. Synonymous with a firearm that has been fired. Who does gunshot residue testing? Georgia Bureau of Investigation, APD, all sorts of agencies to build cases.
Wait, you're muted, Kayla. I don't know if you have to be muted, but you're muted, Kayla. And it says I can't unmute you, so you gotta find that mute button.
Oh no, okay, here she goes. She can say hi now.
That went crazy.
Now you can say hi.
Hi, Mel.
Hi.
Hi, chat. You guys say hi to Mel.
We're on.
I'm not a lawyer,
I'm
but
on Katt, not Williams.
All right, see y'all later. I gotta go. They gonna get mad at me if they know I'm recording in the courthouse.
okay. Oh,
Bye, y'all.
oops. Well, there's a quick appearance there. Also, shout out to, and I'm behind, but shout out to Y Turner with the double time asking for the poll. Guys, we can do a poll, but it has to be something different than mistrial or no mistrial, because, like, you guys got to understand the way people come into a stream looking for information. If there's a poll up with a mistrial or no mistrial, people are going to guess that a mistrial with prejudice across the board is on the table. And I don't want to even give that impression, because it's like a fantasy that's not on the table. We're negotiating pleas. Each defendant is meeting one-on-one to discuss a plea. They don't necessarily need to take a plea, but the negotiations are happening. So, I mean, you know, I don't want to put up a poll that's going to let people that just joined the chat come in and get confused. So, but other than that, I mean, YouTube gives 4 options for a poll, and it's limited in characters. You can't type all that much in it. So, if you guys want to figure out a poll that we can do one, but just understand the constraints there. And I know you think it's not that complicated, but also putting a mistrial without prejudice or no mistrial, I also think that that's misleading if we know that people are discussing plea deals. I mean, I take it very seriously if something's not obviously a joke, and I'm watching how many people are coming in confused, thinking, court already happened today, court didn't happen. I don't want to do that, because people take words and hypotheticals too seriously, and I can't just sit here repeating that the poll is a hypothetical. And I don't know, there hasn't been any written motion, so... And to me, a plea like this makes it seem like with or without is giving the possibility, and people think I'm offering the possibility, that I'm even putting it on the table, that a mistrial with prejudice is on the table. And I don't even want to hint at that, because I think it will let people down. I don't think that's on the table at all. So there's that. We can do a different poll. We are almost done with Shard's opening. He's got a little more to go, but just wanted to address that because, that was also to Kayla's channel, that question about the poll.
Against defendants. You'll learn how gunshot residue is collected. How you take a surface or a body part or an object, you take these adhesive stubs, these official gunshot residue kits, and you dab the surface of an item. As much as you want, you can use multiple stubs. And then you take these stubs and you place them under an electron microscope. And a scientist can look under this microscope and see if there's any particles of gunshot residue that are on said item. You'll hear that Shannon Stillwell was arrested on March 17th in that same white Audi that he was in on the 14th. And you will hear that the crime scene technicians, in this case, made a specific decision to pick the best place on a car to test for gunshot residue. When the gun is fired, the gunshot residue would plume upwards. And so they take the best part of the car, the headliner. And for all of you that don't know what the headliner is, that's the cloth top of the car. That's pictured right there. You'll hear about Alexander Coven, a scientist, a man in search of the truth, a man who works for GBI, not for me, not for Shannon Stillwell. And you'll hear how that headliner that was collected from that white Audi on March 17th was brought to Alexander Coven at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. You'll hear he's an expert in gunshot residue collection and analysis and detection. And you'll hear how Mr. Coven, as he was trained, took that gunshot residue kit and took those adhesive tabs and dabbed that headliner again and again and again and again and again and again. Dozens of times. And then he wanted to make sure what he did was sufficient. So he took a second tab, adhesive tab, a fresh one, and continued to dab that headliner again and again and again and again and again to pick up any particles that would be on the headliner from that white Audi. And he took those tabs, those adhesive tabs, and he put them under his microscope that he uses when he's building cases for the state. And he looked at those tabs under that microscope for any particle of gunshot residue, any at all. From 15, 10, 5, 3, 1, whatever he could see. And you'll hear that on June 3rd, 2022, 77 days after the state, after Detective Hogan, Investigator Viverito, and the state made their decision that Shannon Jackson fired a gun, Shannon Stillwell fired a gun from that white Audi, 77 days after they made that decision, you'll hear that scientist Coven released his report. And on that headliner, there was not a single, zero gunshot residue to be found. That's the science. Ladies and gentlemen, regarding the March 14, 2022 case, the state has made 5 charges, 5 different counts against Shannon Stillwell, my client. First is count 49 on this indictment. It is murder, alleging that he shot out of the white Audi, he shot Jamal Drinks. The science belies those accusations. I'm going to ask you to find Shannon Stillwell not guilty of that count. Now, count 50 and 51 deal with violations of the Criminal Street Gang Act, Gang Activity Act, and they are essentially charges that say that Mr. Stillwell committed murder to further the interests of YSL, and he committed murder on behalf of YSL for the purposes of increasing his standing within the gang. Y'all are smart people. Obviously, I don't need to say it, but it'll make me feel better if I say it. If he's not guilty of count 49 murder, he cannot be guilty of count 50, and he cannot be guilty of count 51. Counts 52 and 54 similarly charge Shannon Stillwell with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon on March 14th of 2022 on the belief that he used a firearm to kill Jamal Drinks. If the state does not prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt, he cannot be found guilty of count 52. And count 54 charges Shannon Stillwell with possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, that felony being murder. Obviously, if he didn't commit the murder, then he cannot be in possession of a firearm during the commission of said felony. In conclusion, my client has been charged with 2 separate murders. He's been wrongfully accused of 2 separate murders, and we plead absolutely not guilty. He's been charged with conspiracy to violate the RICO Act. And while he has sold marijuana in the past, those were his decisions, for his benefit, and had nothing to do with YSL or anyone else involved in this case. He's pled guilty to those charges. He's done his time. That makes him an ex-drug dealer. It doesn't make him a conspirator. It doesn't make him guilty of violating any RICO acts. The ground rules. Shannon Stillwell is presumed innocent. The state bears the burden of proof, and the standard of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. I believe in this case, if you focus on where the state's evidence comes from, you will find that primarily it comes from the stories of men wearing blue. I'm going to ask you to focus on things like science instead of stories. Compare the credibility of a scientist like GBI scientist Katt, who followed all the rules and determined there was absolutely 0 gunshot residue in that outfit. Compare that to what the state presents. Spencer Wright, who said his name was Nicholas Robinson, who lied, get out of jail. Spencer Wright duped Detective Thorpe on October 19, 2015, and that is on Detective Thorpe. I am going to do my best to make sure that the truth comes out in this case. Make sure that no one wearing blue will be able to dupe anyone during this trial. My client, Shannon Stillwell, is not guilty. Thank you very much.
So there you go. Short opening statement. So what do you guys think? Especially if you guys missed it, and it's kind of been long anyway, if you have been following from the beginning. You know, easy to lose track of everything that's happened before. But clear picture, right? We've heard about a lot of those things in the last couple of weeks, obviously in the earlier days too. But when we get those certain witnesses up on the stand, we get Kenneth Copeland, we get Quindarius Zachary, we get Antonio Sledge, we get someone that was afraid of jail. You know, he really hammers down this point of the Fulton County Blues. And remember, he tried to bring the bag. He had the paper bag, and he tried to show the jury the actual Fulton County Blues. He has had his storyline, his narrative through and through, and has been consistent with it. And, you know, when he opened, he said, I might even slip up and call my client Shannon Jackson. And even though he's clarified when other people need the understanding, he himself gets up there and says, I represent Shannon Stillwell. So he's kept that consistent. So lots of good feedback here. Well done, impactful, pretty accurate, hit the nail on the head. The shard emojis are flying. And then good morning to Reign Supreme. Guys, Kayla and also I'm Not a Lawyer, Mel, are both in the courtroom right now, so they're here, but she can't actually get on the screen. Hey to Terry D. Jay Clyde says, Max Shart is getting Gaither's files as part of the plea. The plea has to come with the reports. Oh, man. All right, and then let's see. Shout out to Kenya Savage for becoming a member. Same with Katie Caddy, Terry D, and Sally Shires. Big recruitment block right here. You guys said, you know, we like Shart's arguments so much, we're on board. We are on board. Thank you so much, you guys. Court guys, I'll keep repeating it for people that are coming in, but when stuff like this happens, just because they schedule a feed to start at 11 or originally, what was it? Law and Crime was scheduled for 9 this morning. They're scheduling it because they're ready to go live when they're able to go live. That doesn't mean that court is guaranteed to start at 9 or then at 10 or then at 11 when they push it back. So right now it's tentatively scheduled for 12 noon. And it might start at 12 noon, but it might not. So just know that whenever court goes live, whenever something's happening in the courtroom, we'll be here to watch it. So The Adventures of Chloe and Daisy says, what degrees have we earned? Guys, what are you now an expert in, according to the state standards? What degrees have we earned from watching this trial? A, expert witness, B, 403, C, motions, D, I don't recall, and E, all of the above. I definitely want to say 403. I was loving that day that Doug went bananas with the 403 objections. But you guys drop your letters in the chat. What do you think you're an expert in now after this trial? Everyone's saying E, all of the above. Lots of talk about how Brian Steele wants that McDonald's footage. Y Turner says, I was referring to you asking us what we would choose, but I agree with you on that. I wasn't thinking about that. So earlier in the stream, guys, we started going through defendant by defendant to try to guess, do you think that they would take a plea or not a plea? With the expectation that it would be the type of plea that this district attorney's office would offer, right? Whatever your characterization of their plea deals are, imagine similar quality with some negotiations. I think the easiest way when we're dealing with 6 co-defendants is if we have a thought. We got to take it one defendant at a time. And obviously none of our thoughts are going to be the thoughts that are in the defendant's head. Even the attorney could say, if I was in my client's shoes, I'd want to do this, but it is not their decision to make. So I think the easiest way, since there's just so much here, you really got to spell it out as, for this defendant, I think if I were them, I'd be leaning towards doing this if this was offered. So thank you, Y Turner. Appreciate you a lot. STS is adding F to our previous choice, multiple choice. Impersonating a know-it-all. Oh man, which expert is that a dig at? Which witness is that a dig at? Which one? Could be more than one. All right, we'll do a new game. Guess the expert witness or the witness that could fall under choice F. Shout out to STS. Jennifer Devine says, I bet if you put love in a dunk tank, they can make all the money they spent on this trial. I would pay 20 to try to dunk that wig. Oh, man. Is Flesh of the Gods still in here? Flesh of the Gods, I highly recommend creating a dunk tank as one of your animations for your streams. Hopefully you're in here. If not, I will bring it up next time I see you live and I'm in your chat. This is a great idea, Jennifer Devine. Hilarious. And guys, if you're over in Kayla's chat, the links I'm dropping my chat, I can't drop to you, but to this chat, Katt's chat, just drop the link to Flesh of the Gods. Make sure you give a follow. Tons of great content, but also hilarious because he does these animations of Love and Glanville and all the different players in the courtroom. STS says, over and under, decision on mistrial today. My vote is Friday. I mean, we are getting pushed back. We are getting pushed back, so I don't think it's unlikely that we could have a not certain outcome today. You never know. It's a big decision. So, great point. And guys, over under in the chat, I think we might see something later in the day. But I don't know. 12 noon, starting in 20 minutes after we've pushed back already, seems a bit optimistic if you ask me, but who knows? Court is tentatively scheduled for 12 noon Eastern time, so about 18 minutes from now. And then John Coleman says, I don't think there will be court today. So, yeah, I really think this could take a long time. More than just the wee hours of the morning. And Jay from over in Kayla's chat says, who does the animations? Flesh of the Gods. So actually, let me find a comment so you can see his profile picture. Okay, so if you look on my screen, you can see his profile picture. That way, when you search on YouTube, you will know what channel you're looking for. Because I can't drop a link to Kayla's chat. So, but that's the account you'll want to look for down here. So, does a ton of animations around the stream, and like, you get points being in his chat, and you can like, make like a fire dragon breath animation of Adrian Love. There's like a lot of fun stuff over there. Yeah, and I agree, Ken, if they push the time, then very likely it's going to be plea deals. So, Peter Mack says, the state climbed a tree and now it's desperate to get down from it. Oof. Deanne, thanks for becoming or gifting a membership. Thank you so much. Very nice of you. Make sure you say thank you if you got that gift. Oh yeah, let me change my banner while I'm here, because we are no longer on Max Shart's opening statement. I was going to say, court hasn't started yet. Let's see. All right, so the banner is updated to say that court has not started yet. Jeannie Beanie says YSL Hilton, she saw him reading the paper, not the screen, and still asked him another question for another hashtag. This was an overt act in furtherance of mistrial goading. Yeah, and I'm all like, there was just too much in going back to the Swiss cheese theory, right? You line up a bunch of pieces of Swiss cheese. There's holes in different places of the cheese. Not a Swiss cheese that you cut from the same block in order. You got to shuffle the cheese slices. The holes shouldn't align slice by slice. But when somehow you've got Westmoreland trying to bring it to your attention one-on-one, you guys talking about it at the bench, the opportunity in general just to, have the decency to say, hey, we're going to use exhibits at trial. We don't want to accidentally expose the jury or a witness to something that should be redacted. So let's make sure the printed copies we're going to hand to the witness are redacted, right? We've got all these different layers, and Hilton doesn't follow any of them. All right, so court actually loaded in. We're on the Georgia seal. But I agree, Sheeny Beanie, you've got all those layers, and the state skipped each and every one of them and then asked the question to keep reading. She knows she handed him the paper. So I think there's a good possibility it was goading, and whether someone wants to say it was intentional or not, it's not excusable. So Danielle says, I'm on felony probation for 3 years in New York and already violated one time after a half year in court now. Never take 30 years. It's literally a setup. So thank you for sharing. I mean, not an easy thing. I hope you get a better outcome, because that sounds like it sucks. Like, you've got to go to a bunch of court days now to work this out. You've got this looming over your head. And I think there's like fines and fees, and then you're just stuck. I understand why probation's a thing, right? But I also think it kind of seems more about the money and less about helping people get back reintegrated, productive with their community once again. So Danielle, thank you for sharing. Everybody's story and outcome is different. I think this is important to consider, that probation just to get out of jail might not always end up with the best outcome. So best wishes to you. And I support it, Nikki. Nikki says, I firmly stand, it's goading. I support it. Janky Grandpa, thank you for the super sticker. It's a dancing avocado with a ton of confetti. Love to see it. Avocados are green, guys. Be careful. Thank you so much, Janky Grandpa. And hold on, let me close. I have this other thing from Max Shart open, so let me close that. Flesh of the Gods out here sniping. Thank you so much. make sure, especially this is a great gift if you got a gift from the Honorable Flesh of the Gods. Make sure you're saying thank you. And actually, let me update my title because it currently says court to start at 12 noon. I guess we'll leave it until court actually starts. Daryl Johnson says dismiss with prejudice. Prosecutor team made too many errors. The strategy to show relationships and continually compound the evidence is the source of a lot of their problems. Whitaker can't justify that. And I saw a lot of discussion on, cumulative misconduct or motions for mistrial, like a cumulative pattern. But it seemed like the discussion from the attorneys that are more familiar than me said that they weren't really sure how much of a precedent was there. But, common sense or in the interest of justice, you would imagine the cumulative nature of errors in a trial, all right? You forgive one, but when they start to, you look at them all together, in the interest of justice, you would think that making a consideration for the cumulative impact should be on the table. So, let's see. Still the seal, you guys. Oh, and let me turn off their chat. Their chat is crazy. That's probably why it's doing that. Turn this off. Get that off the screen. And good morning to everyone popping in. Nothing has happened with the law and crime feed yet, but the reports have been that the defendants and their counsel were meeting one-on-one with the district attorney's office. So we are waiting to see how that all plays out. We'll hear what we hear when we hear it. Marlena Mack says, going for a walk, I can't take the suspense. These guys have become my little brothers at this point. I mean, like, spent a lot of time watching and following the stories of this trial and everything said within it, right? Same thing, like, members in the chat. Like, you've heard me call certain people, like, my YouTube friends, my internet friends, and you guys have friendships in the chat. Like, it's a lot of time spent because of this trial. So, hope you keep your spirits intact there, Marlena Mack, and good to see you. Enjoy the walk. We'll pretend you're taking us with you. We're going on a walk with Marlena, you guys. Blue Queen TV says, even if she didn't have time to print out a new picture, she couldn't just have the man stand up and read the screen, right? Like, get the pointer and read the exhibit on the screen. Like, another layer of Swiss cheese. You have all of these other things that you could have done to prevent something, but you just don't care. It's reckless at best. If it wasn't intentional that you did this to go to mistrial, then at best it's a choice to be reckless and not care about what could happen. So thank you so much, Blue Queen. Great point. Hot Cheeto says, who y'all think is the worst of the prosecutors? For me, I don't know. I don't know enough about the others, and there could be other prosecutors that sit at either of the two tables that have the same goal. I think Abedi and Love both just want to convict. So I think the energy they bring to the courtroom, their mission is too much of a pursuit of victory, that they'll create the story or reinterpret the facts of the case to fit something that seems like an unreasonable storyline just to fit for a win. And I really don't like that type of mindset from a prosecutor. So probably those two for me. All right, now we're on the ceiling. Right, why are we on the ceiling, you guys? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Right, they move the camera. It's like, oh man, we have action. They're taking us off the seal, and then nope, they're just moving us to the camera. I mean, to the ceiling. Oh, they're wiggling the camera again. Asia Mullen says, thank you so much, Kat. We'll miss the slime gang, but free them. Slime gang forever. Heck yeah, man. We could find other ways to talk about other cases. Especially stuff like this, you know. You might have heard me say, the Diddy case, I think there's so much going against him. I'm not uninterested in it, but I'm not interested in it in a, how is this happening kind of question, right? This case to me is, how is this happening? And the more I watch it, the question just feels like a bigger looming question. The more we see these witnesses testify and go against the state's theory. I don't really have that same energy about the Diddy case. I think he's going to be in court for a very long time. So something like that, I get that it's interesting because it's a big story. It's like finally. But other cases, like if you come across a story like how is this happening to this person, I'd love to talk with you guys about it. Why are we on a blank screen now? Law and Crime is like taking their camera down. Oh boy. Maybe they're just like fixing something. Who knows? So we will, I hope a lot of you, I know trials might not be everybody's thing, but I hope when an issue that you feel passionate about the same way about this case, bring it to the attention of us, like on X or on YouTube. Because it'd be really cool, I think, to have this same energy or similar energy the next time this same shenanigans happens. Yep, and this is a mess too, so federal trials aren't taped or live streamed. So, great reminder there, Jamie. And it's still, the logo's still down here, guys, so the Law and Crime feed is live. They just, the camera, it just, it's taking a nap. Outsider in, thanks for becoming a member. Laura Radzavala says, will Hilton still have a job after this? I think so. I mean, I think it's a cushy position, which is something I kind of hate. I think a lot of government jobs are cushy unless they want to push you out from the inside. So it really, to me, it comes down to, are they going to be mad at Hilton for this? Oh, are they? Let's see. Now, I don't see any updates from Kathy Roussan, so are you guys in the hearing court is canceled from comments in Law and Crime? Is it a comment from Law and Crime? Like their actual channel? Because the chat could just be saying whatever. So. And I don't see anything posted from Kathy. Yeah, the last thing Kathy posted was that we're in the courtroom 4 minutes ago, so. I think they're just doing something with the camera. Tebow DC Don't says, hey Kat and chat, happy 403. Well, we didn't make it to day 403 of the trial, but, you know, you win some, you lose some. Thank you for the kind words. Shout out to Tebow. Yayo says, is there grounds for a recusal if they go forward with Whitaker saying she was trying to fix the prosecution's sloppiness? A ref is supposed to fix. And maybe isn't, but I think you'll see a bunch of written motions if this is going to go forward, just so stuff is preserved, issues are preserved, arguments are preserved. As far as whether that will actually play out, I don't know. And I know a lot of people were shocked that she was saying, I'm trying to fix your sloppiness. If you ask me, I feel like she's hinted that she was trying to fix the mistakes of the state before. So I really don't even think this is the first time Whitaker has thrown a bone to fix something to keep this trial going, to not waste the time already spent. It may have seemed extra explicit the way she said it yesterday, but I don't think it's the only time. So, all right, so media is not allowed in the courtroom. So, we'll have to see. That could be maybe there's a big enough conversation happening that they have all the defendants present for. So, okay. To clarify, they let our photog in to set up and turn on and then made him leave. No media is currently in the courtroom. Judge is talking with attorneys. Someone, likely the bailiff, turned off our camera, and now we only have black. So, there you go. Shout out to Knack down here in the comments. So we'll keep this up. I'll also keep refreshing Kathy's feed. So, sounds like we'll get something happening somewhat soon. Yeah. Black Butterfly says, Steele will first ask Fonny about the McDonald's tape. First things first, walking right into that room. Oh, man. Chrissy says, I definitely wouldn't let love sit behind me. Just saying. Felicia, thanks for becoming a member. "403 is ready. Always love the name. Wondering if you'll keep your name if this ends today, or if you'll remix and rename yourself. Katt, your face was priceless yesterday with Steele. Steele and Max knew that, what was his name? Al Hogan. Al Hogan was down. Yep. Steele was asking Fonny about that tape. Because you guys, if you guys missed yesterday, for the cross-examination of Detective Hogan, who investigated the Jamari Holmes murder, Brian Steele gets up there. This guy had been on the stand saying, I don't really know Instagram. I'm an older guy. Steele goes up there and he's like, do you know anything about how video surveillance works? And did the whole spiel. Had this guy say, hey, you got a time span. It's like a tube. Some stuff gets pushed out when too much comes into it. You know, one piece will drop off when there's too much. Oh, so it doesn't all just delete randomly at one time. Well, no. And then Shark gets up there and he's like, do you know how gunshot residue works? You know, if you think that the vehicle was used in the commission of a crime, you would want to test that for gunshot residue, right? You know, with gunshot residue, can you get false positives? Well, yeah. Right, so a false negative, you know, that's a bit more reliable, but a false positive, not so reliable, right? Yeah. So Steele and Shart both had like ancillary uses for their cross-examination of Detective Hogan yesterday. That was a time. Let's see. And I don't know, if Kayla has the time and wants to, like, if she steps out of the courtroom and wants to pop in and tell us anything that's going on, I'm sure she will. But she is in the courtroom, so she's not supposed to just be sitting there and, with her phone out recording stuff. So, well, maybe not in the courtroom. She could be in the courthouse, is what I should say. Okay, hold on. Let me send her a link. No, I know I sent the link public. I mean, I'll boot anyone else that comes up. It's just for Kayla. And I appreciate that you guys aren't trolling that link. All right, we got a guest appearance here from That Ill Kid J. You get a free pass, That Ill Kid J.
Wow.
Good to see you.
That's crazy. I'm live with Katt, not Williams.
All right, we're
Dude,
doing an impromptu panel. I see a B in the chat, but I don't see a picture, so I don't know who you are. But
okay.
you guys, chat favorite here, community favorite here, That Ill Kid J. So you guys say what's up in the chat.
I just want to scream at the top of my lungs, free Jeffrey. It's a surreal moment here, like going through trial and watching day after day.
Oh, you're losing feed there, That Ill Kid J. But I feel you. I feel you on what you were saying. All right, and he dropped off there. So, and then Caleb, let me make sure. Caleb got my message. Welcome back.
Hi, Brooke. I got a phone call, but I put it on Do Not Disturb now. But
There you go.
it's so insane watching the prosecutors just like try and play with everybody in their face. I mean, I guess we get to see behind the scenes more of like what the jury and everybody, I guess, the jury doesn't see. But man, it's so insane how they could just play with people's freedom like this and be so unorganized at the same time. Like you've had years to get this in line, and then you come here and present it so sloppy. Like, and the judge just giving so many breaks and working and rooting for the defense. Like, I just don't understand. It's so infuriating because like these are people's lives, and it's just the biggest blessing that it happened on the state, and we can just hope for the best plea deals. And they got some of the greatest lawyers and attorneys to, fight for their freedom. And I don't know if you can see up there, but I have a picture of Jeffrey Williams, and I don't know, his music is so inspiring to me. So being like somebody who grew up off his music and you know, seeing his growth over the years coming from like, a rough upbringing to being such like a family oriented man and like taking care of the community. It's just, you never want somebody like that to be in this position. And it's just a blessing that, he could touch freedom. And the biggest thing for me is, he's such a big family man and has a lot of kids, and going 2 years without seeing your kids, that's got to do something to your spirit. So, I mean, for him to, go and hug his kids and see his family and, get to share those moments, like it makes my heart melt. It's like, I can only pray that he walks away with this like clean record and can go make new memories. And long live Little Keed. Right when he got locked up, Little Keed passed away, one of his artists and upcoming friends from, Cleveland Avenue, some young aspiring rapper who he put, his faith and platform behind. And, he sadly passed away. And right before he, like right as soon as he got locked up, and then, with the passing of Rich Homie Quan, he can never make, amends with him, because now he doesn't have the opportunity because he's been stripped of his voice. So, I mean, seeing him in court every day and, wishing the best for him, and, just praying something like this eventually happened, and, we got it. I mean, I'm just praying it's with prejudice so they can't retry it. But even if it isn't, I feel like the state cannot put this together cleanly. And hopefully come election season, everybody in Fulton County, you go out there and vote, you get involved in your elections, and if you want to see change, this is your guys' office in time to make a change in your guys' community. But Katt, you're so awesome and the hardest hustling YouTuber. Like, I sit here and watch you until my
Oh, no,
AirPods
that's
die.
okay. I can't wait to go hang out in someone else's chat and be a lurker once again.
Yeah.
But I think what's really great is there, trials, your dirty laundry could come out and get aired. And a lot of these witnesses that came up when it was time to speak on Jeffrey Williams, they're like, well, he tried to look out for us. He tried to get us out and about, and didn't want us in trouble. And at the end of the day, some other trials, that's not witnesses get on the stand and don't say things that end up being a positive for you. So I think this trial, they've put people on the stand that show that Jeffrey Williams is more in line with what you're saying.
Yeah, he's such a pure soul. Like, you can tell when somebody has bad intentions or just got caught in the wrong place, wrong time. And I feel like his past caught up to him, and people around him were moving in a way that wasn't so smart. If you were involved in the street aspect, it's kind of like they were moving a little sloppy, but everyone was young. It was 10 plus years ago when most of this stuff was happening. So it's like you can't blame someone's upbringing, especially when it's poverty stricken and it's not like the best of chances to really make it out. And he beat the odds and made it out, and now it's just kind of like, well, you were involved in some stuff in the past and your name sticks to it. I don't want to curse, but that's why you take this bleep to MF trial, man. You take this to MF trial. I'm just so
Well,
happy for
you
that
see
guy.
the news that no court anymore today?
Oh wow,
So
that's such a tease. That's a cliffhanger. Come on, man.
I think that
I'm
could
already
be.
I'm already shaking. Like, I just want the best news to happen so it can break the internet. And I want Jeffrey to be able to walk out, call his family, and just go off social media. Just go lock in with his family, enjoy his time, and all the years that he's spent behind bars, just talking to his attorney, sitting in that same courtroom. Like, that's got to be so draining on your mental. Like, nothing but prayers, and prayers for him and all the defendants on trial. And I mean, it's sad, but it's a sad movie, but you really enjoyed it. There was ups and downs and climaxes almost every day, and it's like, oh my god, how much messier can this get? And you just can't stop
Well,
watching. It's like, oh my
I'll
god.
say I don't know that it's necessarily over, and I think that this is, as a collective, this could suggest, in my opinion, something potentially collective, or maybe if one person wants to go one direction and the other four might want to continue, this is where we might be seeing this big courtroom meeting to figure out the logistics of something like that. So,
Yeah,
and it sucks that we don't. If she's saying no court, to me that sounds like any group discussion is
yeah. I
off the
think
table.
I think they
Like
still
they're
would
not
be
they're not currently all discussing right now.
100%. I think they're still gonna have like very intricate negotiations because Jeffrey was not a felon when he walked into this courtroom, and I feel like there's absolutely no reason why he should walk away from this courtroom with something on his record like that, especially if it's because of the prosecutor's sloppiness. Like, you handed a document that wasn't redacted and asked, "Is there another hashtag?" Like, that's very inconsiderate. I just had higher hopes for the prosecutor and the way that they would try this case if Fonnie was Big Bad Wolf on the news and saying, we have all these gang members that are going to get charged and we're going to clean the streets. And it's like, well, you would think that there would be cold, hard facts. It's all hearsay. It's all social media from years and years ago. Like, there is some evidence that's kind of like, I don't know, them boys might have been in some mish, but
And guys, I think Kathy is usually pretty careful in her language, so when she says currently unknown if there will be trial tomorrow or even next week, and we're hearing no court, I don't think that means they're still sitting in the courtroom having a discussion. I think this means that court is in recess, like a full-on recess. So that's
yeah,
very different than just the media can't be in there right now. This, to me, sounds like no court at all, and potentially no court tomorrow, and maybe even not next week here being added by Kathy. So
oh,
that's very significant if you ask me, and I can't tell you what that means, but I can tell you it means something interesting. So,
yeah, that
I
put.
see people saying new motions. I don't have an alert that there's new motions. So are you guys just suggesting new motions in the chat? This is great. Put a question mark.
Have we
Question
heard
mark
from
is
Doug?
helpful.
Do we know what Doug's mindset or opinions are on this? Because I haven't. I woke
Doug
up not
said
too
I
long ago.
wander away and suddenly this happens.
Oh,
Well, thank you so much for coming up and introducing yourself, that ill kid
no,
Jay.
thank you, everyone. Show Katt some love in the chat. Subscribe, like the video. It's free 99 to show support. This is our slime leader. We are all being indicted next. Everybody have a
We're all
blessed day.
indicted.
Everybody have a blessed day. Drink some water. I love everybody. I'll be in the chat lurking. Katt,
See you
shout
in
out
the
to you,
chat
bro.
side.
Shout
Thank
out
you
to
for
you,
coming
bro.
up.
No, thank you. Appreciate you. Free slime.
You guys show that ill kid Jay some love.
Anyhow, I'll be in the
But yeah,
chat.
so
Say
let me
what's
get
up.
out of these. We'll refresh with Kathy, see if anything new with Kathy. But likewise, I think we'll all be refreshing. I don't know about you guys last night. Were you guys up there refreshing your feeds last night, waiting to see if there were any updates? I saw Trikesha out there in the X Wild refreshing feeds. But this is it. Until something happens, we're not going to know. And I do not have a notification that something has come through on the docket yet. I can check manually real quick. And of course, we'll look at that stuff if and when it comes in. But the court is in recess. It's not just no camera feed, guys. So, open to all discussion in the chat. Just remember, we can't actually know what's going on, right? We don't actually have answers. So if anyone's telling you something, be careful, until we see something on the record or from a verified source. Just use some discretion there. And yeah, I bet this is kind of a stressful thing. I wonder what's happening. Rebecca, thank you so much for the 2. Shortness says, I would not proceed with this trial. These jurors have heard too much prejudicial info that they have to eliminate from their minds, as if it's possible. It's near impossible for them to not be influenced or biased. And I think this is a great take. A lot of the times we say the jury has to be seeing this, right? But you never know. And they could be remembering all the prejudicial stuff. So if you're sitting there in that courtroom as a defendant, you've got to consider that possibility. Great point here, and thank you so much for the support. Sanmon says, KNW, your coverage has been very professional and informative. I do try to be goofy, and I just like to not be the one that spawns rumors. So when I am goofy, I hope it's very obvious that I'm making a joke. I especially like how you don't talk over the case being presented. Best wishes to all the slime gang. Thank you so much for the kind words, Sanmon. Chop-O-Matic, sounds like an infomercial, says, FYI, almost impossible to sue DA at either the office or prosecution level. Yep, this is true, guys. The office has sovereign immunity, and the prosecutors have absolute immunity for anything related to doing their job. Yep, a very difficult uphill battle. And of course you can try, but there's a risk of trying, right? That's expensive, it's time-consuming, stressful, emotional. So, great point here. Thank you so much for the super. Peter Ortiz called it, saying, I think this will not end today. Monty Wright in the Harvey voice. Shout out to YSL Ponytail. It's too damn late. Sierra or What says, also, I found you because of this trial, and I thought you were a lawyer due to the confidence you have when speaking on the issues. Can you tell us more about your background? So my academic background was it was kind of twofold, but part of it was social justice and criminal justice reform. So looking at that and just have a hobby interest in cases where I feel like really the post-conviction space, cases where someone gets a conviction, they're maintaining their innocence. I love to take a look at stuff like that, go back through the appeals. And then really, guys, the post-conviction space is kind of like a new frontier. It's like the Oregon Trail. There isn't really much, there isn't much short-term relief. Yeah, you could file, habeas corpus. You could, make certain writs. There's certain things you can do, but it's expensive. It's time-consuming. If you get the grant to bring an issue forward to a different court, it's going to be months, if not years, down the road. So for the falsely convicted, it really pains me when I hear a story that someone is freed after 26 years. It is painful to hear. And it's like, yes, you're happy that they just got out, but of course the next thought is that time is lost. That time is gone. Yay, they got out, but holy crap, you cannot give them back 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. And I don't know, that's just always something that's just hurt me, and I want to help people that are in that situation. And there are some states that do nothing at all. They don't have programs in place for the wrongly convicted. There are other states that do, but their program is like, oh, we had you falsely incarcerated for 40 years. Your relief will be $200,000 max. So, you know, just like I want that space to improve. I want that space to improve. Professionally, I do a lot of copywriting, and by copywriting, I mean writing the language, so helping small businesses. I really like working in the startup space and getting brands from product through launch to market penetration of like 15% of their target market. And then I like to wander off, as Doug Weinstein would say, and start with a new smaller company. So right now I'm working with a real estate company that's really got a solution to the NAR lawsuit, the NAR settlement, and those commission problems, right? Weird DOJ and NAR beefing back and forth. DOJ says the problem's transparency. NAR is saying, all right, we'll make it transparent and we'll fix this commission issue of the seller agent brokerage compensating the buyer's brokerage. We'll solve this problem by just telling them they can't advertise their commission that they're going to put back and forth, and it's got to be paid to the buyer for them to pay their agent. Well, there's a company with a platform, Easy Real Estate platform. They've got the solution to that where you can actually work commission for the buyer's agents into the purchase sale agreement price, 100% transparent, making offers in real time. And there is a little crossroads there, right? Part of the need for that is because of something in the law space, this lawsuit with the DOJ and the NAR settlement. But really, I'm helping them with their marketing, their branding, their messaging. Really, when you're a small team, you've got to understand all the different roles when you only have like 5 people, 4 people trying to jumpstart something. So that's what I specialize in. And as soon as it's launched, love to support them in spirit, but like to move on to other projects. So that's one of the clients I'm working with right now. So in short, marketing, but what does that mean when someone tells you they work in marketing? But thank you. There you go. A little bit of an introduction right on the day we're like, this might be the end, you guys. But thank you for the kind words and for being here, Sierra. Start pushing weight again says, be careful with that name now. I slow motioned the stream from yesterday, and Shard had a big grin when the mistrial without prejudice gets offered. It was only 2 or 3 frames. I think that's an interesting one to see what decision Shannon Stillwell or Shannon Jackson might make. So very interesting that Shard makes a big grin. I think that's interesting. Thank you so much. Chloe Albert's Revenge says, I appreciate all the new vocabulary I've learned. Oh no, here we go, you guys. I can't wait to order up a nut juice while changing my vanity name. I'm dying to call someone squirrel brain in traffic. You gotta honk the horn and yell, squirrel brain. This trial was brazy. Yeah, definitely a lot of new vocabs coming out that will carry on, I'm sure. Good to see you, Chloe. Can't wait to use some of this jargon in a chat somewhere about another trial. And then Elemental Neon says, just like Hilton, I'm an amateur content creator. Oh boy. Well, I don't even know if Hilton creates content. She just takes content she's supposed to redact and put it out there. But I got you. What are you doing out here with your channel? Let us know in the chat for sure. Yayo says, is there grounds for recusal if they go forward with Whitaker? Oh, we got this one, but I'm sure we're going to see something written there. Let me do a quick refresh in my email and see. Yes, I don't have any notifications of new filings. I'm tracking the 6 co-defendants. Nick, are you in the chat? I see, I just toggled over and see Nick and send Nick a link. Guys, this is for Nick only. There you go, Nick. If you look in the chat, you'll see. And for Nick only, if you want to pop on up. PJ says, Team K and W always with the Slimers. Thank you so much. Thank you for the 5. STS is, yeah, with the accuracy here. Thank you, STS, for always looking out. It's not a red pen. We have to cross out errors. It's a blue pencil in the commercial writing world. I gotta get one of those. The Smoky Show says, I blame Love's long-winded big mouth for this mess somehow, some way. Even though, well, she was in the courtroom, but it was Hilton doing the questioning. But you know, the timing, right? She shows up, she's in the courtroom, and suddenly something goes wrong. Shout out to the Smoky Show. STS says mistrial, does that release the severed people? Now, I'm not saying there won't be impacts from this trial that impact the severed defendants in some way or form, but a mistrial here, unless there's a dismissal of the indictment, which I can't imagine Fani Willis ever having that within her realm of consideration. That's something like a dismissal of the indictment would be a different decision, right? But a mistrial in this case would not end up being a mistrial carrying over to the severed co-defendants. So, and we got, guess who it is? We got Big Nick in the building.
Hey!
Please give a warm welcome here to Nick Starro, who has been, I mean, you've made it to day 151.
Oh. What a day.
Yeah.
What a day.
What a day that's not a day.
Yeah, but over at my place, we had so much fun, and we did recaps of the best cross-examinations that has been going on lately. Then I showed them parts of a Pinch and Zoom guy, and then all of a sudden there was movement, went to black, and then the update from Kathy Russell.
Yep, and then I mean, going into recess is kind of a big deal. That's very different than no media while we have this giant meeting.
Yeah. And hi, folks. For you who don't know, I've been doing labor law for over 30 years. And rough estimate, 30 to 50 negotiations per year for 30 years. My interpretation of what just happened is that both parties, both the defense and the prosecutors have gone into Judge Whitaker and told her that the negotiations is moving forward. If either one says we're stuck, then I believe the trial would have resumed. But if both parties, either for plea deals or bond deals, whatever it is, but in order for Judge Whitaker to grant this recess, grant them time to continue work, which I believe she has, the negotiations so far must have been fruitful enough for Judge Whitaker to actually grant them the time. And that is my interpretation. I've been doing that. I've been doing negotiations for a very, very long time. And I don't see Judge Whitaker granting this without being told by both parties that we are moving forward with this. Negotiations are doing good enough. That doesn't mean it won't fall apart. That's still an option. But
at least that we're giving you the time to let it play out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting we have a recess.
Yeah, and when it comes to the prosecution, we all know, give them enough time, they will screw it up.
Well, and I just can't imagine the state realizing how bad this could be for them. So I feel like they're probably entering the negotiation table just hard-headed to the reality of the situation. So if they're not offering something that's reasonable, and the attorneys are trying, because I think there's strong negotiators on the other side, and I think the clients themselves are also advocating for themselves with the help of their counsel. And I can imagine the DA's office is offering something, but it's probably ridiculous. It's probably...
that might have been the initial offer, but I mean, they have probably been at it since yesterday.
Yeah.
So, but whatever happened yesterday up until now, it must have been fruitful enough. Because for Fani Willis, she needs to come out of this looking like a winner. Now, there's two options.
You've got election day around the corner.
Exactly. And so for her, she needs something in these plea deals that makes her look like a winner. But that is not enough. She needs to do something more. And in my opinion, completely biased, is that she needs to fire Adrian Love directly after the plea deals are signed. She needs a scapegoat.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. That's a good point. Have someone else fall on the sword.
Yeah, because
After that email.
after that, yeah. But here's the thing: I've seen hundreds of
She did that with
similar.
Amanda Timpson.
Yeah, I've seen hundreds of similar. Put them on a pedestal. Oh, they're so good, they're so great, yada yada yada, and then a week later, foot in the arse, out the door. I've seen that happen so many times.
Well, because then it
So
doesn't look like spite or retaliation. It's like, oh my god, we loved you, but you messed up so bad. We had no
yeah,
choice.
yeah. Good luck on your future endeavors. Have you all seen that in a company email before? We
No,
wish
wait, is it?
this middle management guy good luck in his future endeavors, but he will not be he he will leave his position effective immediately, and we wish him so much good luck on his future endeavors. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of those as well. I've been causing a lot of those as well because
Passive aggressive
yeah.
emails.
No, I'm being the cause because I told the company owners that either he goes or you're going to meet the other me.
Well, speaking of the other you, I know, like, normally I would say you have your panel show at 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, but aren't you
Yeah.
also doing a compilation video that you have pre-scheduled?
Yeah,
Did you have something pre-scheduled?
Yeah, it was pre-scheduled because I needed something because I can't bring myself to. I've been watching that text message guy, prosecutor, what's his face, ADA,
Text
the other
message
day.
prosecutor?
Yeah.
Wait, a different case or here?
No. This case, he was on the stand the other
Oh,
day.
Reeves. Are you talking about Hiles Reeves?
Yeah. And I can't bring myself to punishing my audience with that. But what I do the cross-examinations have been great in this trial.
Yeah.
So I will be doing a cross-examination bonanza tomorrow, starting at, I believe, 12.
Yeah, we can share that if you just
30,
want to
something like that.
drop that in
And
the chat. Because people are
then,
going to want something to watch tomorrow. So I'm like,
yeah,
where can I recommend to people early in the morning?
yeah. But I kind of that will start 6:30 p.m. my time. I'll be home around 1ish, 2ish tomorrow, but I need to catch up on some sleep because the last 40 hours I'm running on 2 hours. So it's 6:30 p.m. right now where I am, and
Yeah.
I'm going right over there and I'm going
Take a
to
nap.
assault the pillow with
Assault
my
the pillow.
face. Yeah, I'm going to assault the pillow with my face.
Will you
And
also
then
assault the pillow in furtherance of the gang enterprise?
In furtherance of Mr. Jingle's Viking Thugs.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah, but I just wanted to come on here and just make my opinion known here as well.
Well, I love your opinion, and you know I love when your opinion is packaged in a rant.
Oh, we watched the cross-examination by Miss Abbasi of the Bad Santa Cop.
Oh
he's
yeah,
such.
Al Hogan.
Oh God, I had words. I had a lot of words about the
Her cross was good. It was
Yeah.
really good.
And then he admitted he had over 100 murder cases and he never found a murder weapon. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
that was stunning to me. Like, part of me wondered if he was just like making that statistic up to discredit the point that they were trying to get at.
yeah, if
Or
he
is that
did,
really the case? That's nuts. Like,
yeah,
it's shocking that that could be real. Like,
Yeah.
either way, your job sucks, or you're lying on the stand in your testimony, giving this hyperbolic representation because you
Mhm.
want you don't want to help land a
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, and then Mr. Steele shows up, and Bad Santa Cop actually
The
helped
video
him.
camera.
Yeah, the video camera. Have you ever seen that? No, that only if it was a catastrophic failure. And still just said, "Yep, thank you."
Oh my
Oh, it was
gosh.
so good. And then we also watched Mr. Williams. Oh, she's the nicest shark. The witness didn't even notice she was getting eaten alive on the stand.
Mm-mm.
Oh, it was so good. And for those guys out there who said, well, a few said, Mr. Williams, she's just sitting there doing nothing. Oh, she was biding her time. She was waiting for this.
No,
And
and I mean, that's really the role that she needs to play. I mean, we've heard this week actually a few attorneys like, I know it's not my client, but we've heard a few of that
yeah,
today. I mean,
yeah,
this week. So,
yeah.
but otherwise, not every, count one, I get that they're all tied by this count one, but not every argument needs every attorney up there raising a fuss. That's why they have the Harvey rule.
I'm just
Hold on, I
writing
was just
to
looking for your chat. What a day, right? Thank you
no.
for your super chat, Nick, while you're on the screen. You just wanted to be on the screen twice. I appreciate you. Butterfly Lover, I do want to share in the chat something that I think might be from Butterfly Lover.
Oh,
This document on information on public liability in Fulton County. It is a bit of a hefty document. It's 26 pages. I'm going to call it public liability.
When I worked in the European Parliament as a documents analyst, I had to go through the rules and regulations on ethical and what was the name of it? It was so bad. Ethical and ecological farming. The permit, in order for you to get a permit, you need to be educated on a binder that is 700 pages long just to get the permit on ecological farming on a European Union level.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, that was an interesting 3 years of my life I will never get back.
And also, Doug is
Oh, so
saying,
26 pages. Oh no.
I'll say we have bench conferences. So did you see, let me switch this to this. So that was from
Ooh.
Doug. Yeah, so they are actually moving on. And thank you, Lottie B. Lottie B pointed this out, that Doug responded to someone on X, why is there no court? That they're having bench conferences. So what do you take of that instead of it just being a recess with no cameras in there?
I think that judge have allowed them to use the courtroom for this instead of going in and out of Miss Love's office.
Yeah.
So probably they have done the individual things. Now it's more now it is a group
Well,
effort.
it makes sense because one defendant might want to confer with another defendant based on some of the terms being offered. So if they could at least kind of be in the same vicinity, that is practical, a bit more efficient.
I don't think they can do that officially, at least, because they all have the defense teams have their own clients, and but then again, I don't think any one of them of the defendants wants to throw any of the others under the bus because everybody has helped each other. But if one gets a plea deal that is really good, but
it's
then
like
again,
discussing your salary out loud.
like discussing your salary out loud. That's legal, by the way.
Could be something
at
like
least
that.
in most states, I think it's on a federal level. You can actually it's frowned upon, but they can't do anything about it. In my experience, you should always discuss your salary with your coworkers. How else do you find out if you're
If you're
underpaid?
getting a good deal or a stinky deal.
Yeah. Yeah, so the bench conferences, yeah, I would assume they are meeting and then goes apart. Okay, this is what we're discussing now, and then meet with the prosecution. Then, yeah, I've been doing this for a while.
Oh,
Not
and I
in
think
this
that I
kind
would
of
say this
setting.
is true too. It could just breed resentment and get you nowhere. So there is, two sides of that coin. But
Yeah.
from a employer barring you or telling you you cannot do something, they
Oh,
shouldn't be
yeah.
telling you that. And employers really will say that when they're not supposed
Yeah.
to.
If you get fired for discussing pay, you will probably need to contact a local labor lawyer or your local authority or your union if you're unionized, because you might have a case.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't give legal advice. I'm
it's like
telling you, you
taboo.
should get local legal advice.
There you go. And I would say
Mm.
it's like taboo to talk about, but your
Yeah.
employer shouldn't be barring you from it.
Mm. We don't have that culture over here because still to this day, I believe almost 70% of all workers in Sweden are unionized. So the whenever a company says don't discuss pay, folks, did you hear that? They don't want us to discuss pay. What do you have to say about it, members? And the members often say, oh, really? This is my pay.
Just broadcast it. I
Yeah.
have a question that might be better for you. My
No?
take on it is this would come into play if the indictment goes away and they try to bring back an indictment. Right? Can statute of limitations apply for like if there's 4 years from the incident? I don't think that's affected unless there's an issue of trying to re-indict.
That depends on there are two murder charges in this. That is the statute of limitations according to Georgia RICO. They apply that on everything, and that is why they can have cases from
Can
2013,
retrofit.
2014, 2015. If the murder charges are gone, then the rest of the RICO is gone, or the rest of the charges. So if they have to have the murder charges, I believe it is Stilwell and Ryan who has those
Well,
charges.
Ryan's only in there as well, let me pull up the indictment.
Yeah, and that if those guys are severed, for instance, let's say
Because honestly, I think Rodelius Ryan, that's just the overt act, like
yeah,
for it to be
yeah.
in furtherance.
But the overt act, if the overt act is the act of murder, then yes, that statute of limitation is the one. Now, let's say Mr. Nichols gets severed from this case, which Mr. with Bruce Harvey has been arguing for a long, long time. Well, if he isn't in the murder charge part of the thing, then those charges he has, those statute of limitations apply. And if it's gone, then it's gone. But that is why they have everything under the RICO Act, and an underlying act in that is the murder charge in furtherance and somehow being involved in it. But it all boils down to the murder charges. If those
Yeah,
are
so what's
gone,
this?
I'm trying to get the answer. Say that the jury acquits all of them for the murder charges. How does that apply
Yeah,
to the
then
rest
what?
of them?
Well, listen, that's been a homework kicked down the road for like 2 months at this point.
Yeah. And I don't have a clear answer, and I really can't get a clear answer because the Georgia RICO Act is so vague and so broad. It might actually be that it's enough that those charges was in there, even though they were acquitted. It still the statute of limitations still applies on the rest of the charges. But this case is everything about it screams on appeal de novo, because no other trial in Georgia history
Has been
has
like
been
this
this long.
trial.
No other trial has had this many motions for mistrial, and a cheated judge, and everything else, and the discovery violations. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to confirm, it's just Donovan Thomas and the Shamel Drinks murder. So it's just overt acts with Rodalius Ryan and Jamari Holmes.
Okay.
So those are the two. And then Nick isn't from the UK. He's a Swede.
I'm Swedish. Maybe if I talk like this, it makes me more clear that I'm Swedish. Or if I do the
yeah, that does it. That's the one. Oh man.
Oh, Katt, have you seen my new mug?
No, you have a new mug? Not an unindicted co-conspirator. I love it. You gotta let him know. You gotta let him know. You can't just bring in my out-of-court statements. Free thug. There you go. Oh, I love the double sides.
It's in my merch store as we speak. So, yeah.
Heck yeah, if you guys want to get in on the Viking gang.
I got it just in time for the trial to be over. Yay!
And we just did the Max Shart's opening statements where he's like, you're going to hear a lot about colors and attire. So make sure you get your merch, your Nick Starro Viking gang merch. And I think Harp City, and I hate the way that these banners show with the way I have this lined up. So let me fix this. But I think Nick, Harp City here says the Fulton County DA's office is a gold mine of content. Judge Alex Manning is fun, but the DA's office corruption and incompetence is always on display. And I'm not alone in saying many more people are here for it. So I've covered a little bit, but I know, Nick, you have plans. So can you talk about the other stuff in Fulton County that you are looking at?
I've been covering, well, by accident, the Fawny Willis disqualification case. And
yeah, that
I'm
was
still
accident by
looking
me
into
too.
it. And also this new FOIA case with Ashley Merchant, which Supreme Court in a different case, but it is related, where a judge tried to another county's former district attorney tried to hide things, and it was now ruled in the Georgia Supreme Court, if my interpretation is correct of it, that no, the DA's office in Georgia cannot hide information that is normally public information. So yeah, that will be interesting. Besides that, well, of course, the Nathan Wade Fawny Willis story is still ongoing on a more or less on a Congress level, so I need to get caught up with that. And also, Judge McAfee, who is the presiding judge over the disqualification case and the former president case, his channel on YouTube, he has so many 1, 2, and 3 day trials that he
just efficient. What is that?
yeah. And I've been checking in on some of them. Yeah, I thought, oh, if we get to a break in this trial, that's a good 2-day trial. That's a good 3-day trial. That's not a good 1-day trial because he assaulted minors. I will not show that. And but Judge McAfee, and I want to have a few of his trials or stream them. He's so efficient. And I think it is because he's so new at being a judge. He's not tainted by the rest of them.
Hasn't learned the bad habits.
Yeah.
Love this. So Harp City, I've done a little bit of stuff in Fulton County, and I really love looking at the claims about the civil forfeiture fund. That just pissed me off. Like, oh, we wouldn't have funds sitting in there that would be enough to pay a 5-figure sum anyway. Well, that's a lie, and it pissed me off. I don't like civil forfeiture. I think it's often abused. I think it's sneaky, and just the timing of it for in the disqualification case, for that to become relevant, when I knew in the back of my mind, just details picked up following the YSL trial, that they had seized 6 figures in cash from Jeffrey Williams. For them to say that, oh, we would never have 5 figures in this account, it just made me all around mad. So I don't really deep dive into Fulton County, although I might follow some of the stuff.
Yeah.
But man, when something pisses me off, you'll probably
Mm.
see me do a video on it.
Now, I have covered the Shane Kendall case and also the 2012 case, which Adrian Love was deeply involved in. And in one case, she got an innocent man convicted who had to spend 5 years in prison before an appellate court told them, no, it's going back to the lower courts, and the lower court said this isn't even a crime what he did. And then of
Right.
course Shane Kendall, who Adrian Latrell loved, he lied and cheated in that competency hearing. And for some odd reason in Georgia, competency hearings are in front of a jury. I had no idea. How can a jury determine mental health? But she lied, she cheated, and Shane Kendall was put in Fulton County Jail, and less than a year later, he was dead.
Crazy. And again, another testament to the conditions of the Fulton County Jail.
Yeah. Fulton County, yeah.
I'll say that others are sitting in. Like, why do we hear about this Fulton County blues? Why they're relevant from Max Shard in his opening statement.
Yeah. Fulton County Jail has more deaths per year per capita than that famous New York jail. What's it called again?
Rikers, maybe?
Rikers, yeah. And Rikers is considered one of the absolute harshest environment in the United States. And I think Fulton County, if I remember correctly from the Shane Kendall case, they quoted years 2020, 21, 2022. On average, on Rikers, they had 25 deaths per year. And in Fulton County, they had 10 to 13 deaths per year. But Rikers is 10 times bigger. They have a capacity of over 30,000 inmates on Rikers. Fulton County,
Yeah. I'll say
3,500.
Porcelain Thunder also mentioned Attica. So I lived somewhat close to Attica for a short period, and it was just, when you live closer, you can hear more of the like anecdotal stories of it, and another nightmare. So when you first said bad prison in New York, I said Rikers because that's the name that most people know. Like, right, if you're playing Family Feud, your goal is to guess what other people were saying, right? We polled 100 people. These are the top answers. So you want to guess what people are saying. So I said Rikers, but there are a bunch of bad facilities in New York. So, yeah, and this part too, Rikers has been caught not reporting deaths. Just crazy. And yeah, an update, I see a lot of people mentioning no court today. So just a reminder, if you're tuning in late, there is no court. Doug said that there are bench conferences happening, but there's no actual court. So court is in recess, and it might be in recess tomorrow as well. So big shout out, tons of gifts in the chat. Big thank you to Angie Lay gifting a membership. We always say Angie Lay sprinkles the chat with a little green. Jamie Patrice also gifting a membership. Thank you so much. Luella Moyer says, is there a limit on motions for mistrial? Nope. And it would be one of those things where even if it seemed like it was a little excessive, I think the court would be very careful to prevent someone from making their arguments, because that could be an issue in and of itself. So
yeah. I had this brief discussion with, I don't remember his name, on X yesterday or the day before, that Georgia does not have this compound of issues statute, so to speak. But they might get one with this, but here's the thing, if this is a mistrial, this won't go up for appeal. There will be no case law out of this trial. That's the sad part of it, because we do need case law from this. Now, we did get
It's
it
sad
from
for the big picture, but it would be
Yeah.
good for someone whose rights are being violated presently.
Yeah. Now, we did get some for Mr. Steele in his contempt. Now, that was up to the Supreme Court. Now, that is case law.